I'm going to call this meeting to order. It feels like a long time since we've seen each other. This is the 76th meeting of the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration as we continue our study on immigration to Atlantic Canada, referred to as through Motion 39 on November 2nd. We thank our witnesses who are joining us. We have one group which is coming to us via video conference from Moncton, New Brunswick. Thank you for joining us. And we also have Sherry Hung, who is joining by telephone. Is Ms. Huang there?
Yes.
And am I pronouncing your name Huang?
Huang.
Huang.
Yeah.
I was right the first time. Huang, okay. Welcome. And I just remind the committee members that sometimes we forget when someone's on the telephone. So just be remembering in our questioning to also be sure to direct any questions to Ms. Huang as well. And Professor Akbari is here in person. I think to start, we're going to start with Day Ross Transportation Company and Tisdale Trucking. I'm not sure who would like to speak first, but you have 7 minutes to share among you, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Okay.
All right. Hi, my name is Vaughn Hatcher. I'm the National Recruiting Manager for Day and Ross Transport. With me here is Crystal DeLong, who is our recruiter for Atlantic Canada, and Dave Tisdale, who is a broker with Day and Ross Transport and is the owner of Dave Tisdale Trucking. I would just like to do a quick introduction about Day and Ross. We're based in Heartland, New Brunswick, and we have been in business for 65 years. We've grown from one truck to a fleet of over 3,800 trucks. And part of the success of Day and Ross has been hiring of foreign workers or foreign drivers with us. And we are one of the largest employers, our industry is one of the largest employers in Atlantic Canada, and we are in a growth industry and it has good paying jobs for drivers. We need to fill some positions with foreign workers. We've been one of the best managed companies for, I believe, 8 years straight running. And as I said, we're growing, and we have at least an extra 2,000 loads a year that we will be needing to haul to the U.S. out of Atlantic Canada. And we have some fantastic foreign workers who are with us right now. We are taking part in the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Project through our brokers like Dave, who has, I believe, the first driver to be hired through this program. So he's going to be able to speak to the challenges that he's faced with hiring foreign workers. From a general standpoint, from talking to colleagues and from my experiences with this, the biggest challenges we're having with this is the uncertainty of cost for our brokers to hire drivers and the amount of time it takes for a driver to go through the process to be accepted for the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Project. Another challenge we have is I have some brokers who are based in Ontario who would like to place some jobs in New Brunswick, but they are being excluded from this pilot project because they haven't been in business in New Brunswick for 2 years. I would hope that that you could change your mind on that or revisit it if a job is going to be placed in the Atlantic provinces and not moved after that point. I think what I'll do now is either open the floor to Dave or Crystal. Crystal has been my go-to person in Atlantic Canada for or helping our brokers process the applications for the pilot project, and she may be able to speak to some of the challenges she's had.
Okay, I'm Dave Tisdale. I've been in business since 1984. You'll have to excuse my voice because I'm suffering with bronchitis. I've hired the foreign workers since 2006. I've been in the program with LMIAs, and until that process started being more about money than it was about work in the Maritimes, we opted out. Our wife and I, we're just a small business. We have 6 trucks, and we've been leased to Day and Ross since '84. And then this new pilot project was introduced and give us a little lease on life again, because we were deciding to reduce our fleet and go back to maybe 2 trucks. So I started on this pilot project. I do have one of the first people that has gone through. I think I maybe still have the only person that has gone through the pilot project, and he was from here. And since I've done that, I've got another application for a guy in Wales who Crystal has been working. We've been working together on him, and to give us some kind of actual cost of what it's going to be for us. Thank you.
Crystal, do you have anything to add?
No, I just, the only thing that I would have to add is just the confusion around the process itself. There seemed to be a lot of confusion around it when it first came out, but the Multicultural Association here in Woodstock, New Brunswick has been a great asset to us. And really, that's all I would really want to add right now.
And furthermore, with that, when it comes to settlement agencies, we are having to use 5 settlement agencies that were indicated that we have to use out of Halifax, I believe, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, or whatever. And we have a local company here that are a settlement agency that works with people that are already in Canada. If we could use them, it would be so much easier than using one of the 5 approved settlement agencies. And the one here is a Multicultural Association of New Brunswick. They know the area. They know the challenges that people will have coming here, and it's good to work with that. Number 2, another thing that I'd like to bring up that I forgot to talk about is getting work permits. If there was a driver that's already in Canada that we'd like to hire, if they could get their work permit at a port of entry, it would be so much faster than going through Alberta. And that is everything. I guess that would be our opening statement. Thank you.
Very good. That's very helpful for the committee, by the way, just because you're able to bring a very practical experience to the committee. We have a lot of theoretical witnesses, and this is going to be very helpful. I think the questions and answers could be a very important part of our meeting tonight. Ms. Huang, let's go to you next for 7 minutes.
Okay. My name is Sherry Huang, and I am CEO of a company called Sunrise Group. We first established our company in Atlantic Canada, is actually in Prince Edward Island. Me and my husband moved to Prince Edward Island about probably 13 years ago, when there's basically no immigrants or hardly any immigrants on the island. And we started our business 10 years ago, and now we have grown into 7 companies under our group of company, and we hired over 50 staff among our companies. So we involve in very diverse business, and we have an educational institution which we acquired from a local, which is language school, has been running over 23 years. So we train immigrants, and also we educate international students from all over the world, have different academic program and language program. We also do teachers training there. So it is a well-established company, but we purchased from a local islander. And then also we get into the business consulting, is helping building bridges between the Canadian businesses to Chinese business. And at the same time, we also look for very good investment business opportunity, which we recognize the Cow's ice cream is the best ice cream on the island, and they have quite a few shops across Canada. So we actually negotiate with the company, and now we become their exclusive franchisee, bring that brand name to China. So now we have quite a few stores running in China for this Canadian brand. We also bring Anne Green Gable to China, publishes the book, the Chinese version book, and then which was actually named the 50 influential books in China. So we also involved in investment in IT business. But what I was trying to demonstrate here is actually we are a perfect example of what the immigrants can bring to the Atlantic region. Is not only the economic development, there are culture, there are job creating, and also they are bridges we can build between Canada and where the country immigrants come from. That's all the great benefit for immigrants to actually live in Atlantic Canada. But also, we're also employer. Among our 7 companies, we involve in a lot of business, international business. So we do require some staff with multinational background. So we ourselves experienced a lot of recruiting challenges, trying to bring capable people from another country come to work for our school, for our company. And so now when this Atlantic pilot project just first came out, I was invited to a roundtable discussion with the minister and everybody involved, and it was quite exciting opportunities. But then now we just feel like, I think I agree with what the other company just said, the whole process, it is confusing. And also is where to go, what the time of the process, and then the settlement agency, and there's no clear path about where you started and how you can get this person in, and what's the evaluations really, the criteria there for being a qualified candidate. So I think I understand there are a lot of attentions, and we appreciate there's such an opportunity to bring everybody together now to actually chat about it. I think what I was trying to make that statement is this will be a very great program to help Atlantic Canada, to help the business here who are actually try to fill in some of the positions. We are living in Atlantic Canada for over 10 years, and we love the area, we love the people here. But the challenges here compared to the big cities, and we do experience challenges. So this program could definitely help us if there are things have been sorted out. So this is my statement.
Thank you very much. Professor Akbari, thank you for joining us from Halifax.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. I have prepared my presentation according to the mandate of the committee that was sent to me. I'm associated with the economics department at St. Mary's University in Halifax, and also with the Atlantic Research Group on economics of immigration, aging, and diversity. Fertility decline is a phenomena that is known to all. It's common to all Canadian regions, which has led to slowing down of population growth as well as aging of population. However, Atlantic Canada has been affected by it more than other regions because of the added phenomena of outmigration of youth population. So between 2007 and 2017, while Canadian population, in Canadian population, those who were aged 65 and above, their percentage rose from 13 to about 17%. In Atlantic Canada, their percentage rose from about 15 to 20%. So 1 in every 5 Atlantic Canadian is aged over 65. And of course, you can see I'm here as an example of that with my gray hair. Population growth between 2011 and 16 over the 5-year period, while in Canada it was 5%, in Atlantic Canada it was only 1%. Now, there are some consequences of population decline and aging, which I have mentioned in my notes that were circulated. First of all, there is economic growth effect of population aging. An aging population can result in fewer labor force participants, thereby causing shortages of different types of labor demanded by employers in the region. We see examples of that in physician shortages at all skill levels, in physician shortage, shortage of bricklayers, truck drivers, etc. Population decline can also result in shrinking markets for goods and services, which in turn creates an adverse impact on incentives for business investment. So this also has an impact on economic growth. Population decline can lead to the creation of policies for restructuring the economy to provide goods and services demanded by a growing elderly population. That is true. But such restructuring cannot have a long-lasting effect if the death rate continues to either exceed or remain close to the birth rate in the region. An aging population can also create increased pressure on younger labor force participants to provide for the social programs for the elderly. For example, higher contribution to Canada Pension Plan and higher taxes. Population decline also means a corresponding decline of some federal funds determined by population size, such as social and healthcare transfers. Rural Atlantic Canada has been affected the most by regional population decline, and this is of concern because most natural resource-based industries in the region are located in rural areas. When population declines, the cost of public as well as private services does not adjust immediately, and there is a point below which base costs cannot go regardless of population size. As a result, the economic feasibility of providing such services becomes questionable. Losses of hospitals and mail and banking services, as well as consolidation of schools in rural Atlantic Canada, have become increasingly common. Closure of public and private services further accelerates rural population decline as people move closer to metropolitan areas in search of those services. And finally, regional population decline can also result in the weakening of political representation in the Canadian House of Commons. So while if provinces are seeing increase in their number of seats in House of Commons due to increase in their population size, the provinces, other provinces which are seeing population growth decline, they don't see any change in their number of representation in House of Commons, which means that their proportional representation in House of Commons goes down. Now I have some stats on Nova Scotia, how it will look like in 2026. In 2026, its population will be down 4.6% from 2004. Population of seniors will be up by 71%. Primary and secondary students will be down 31%, and university-aged population will be down 30%. So because of this population decline, immigration is seen as one solution to this because of low childbearing levels. And without immigration, population decline is expected to to result. Several economic and non-economic factors play their role in immigrant retention. And does immigration cause economic growth, or is it the reverse? That's also something that is debatable. So in my presentation here, I have presented this chart, which shows immigrant arrival rates in Canada and provinces between 2016 and 2000. And it shows that while, for example, in the year 2000, Canada received more than 8 persons per 1,000 residents. In 2016, Canada received about 7.5. And in all provinces, we note that on per capita basis, there was a decline except in the province of Alberta. And, there was an increase except in some provinces, in smaller provinces, on per person basis, more immigrants came in because of the deliberate attempts in these provinces to attract more immigrants. So while smaller provinces are receiving more immigrants than before, immigrant retention remains an issue in Atlantic Canada. Regional retention is still the lowest in the country, but it has increased since early 2000s, from about 40% to about 67%. And we can attribute this increase to deliberate attempts at community level, at provincial and municipal government levels. And stats also suggest that recent arrivals are more likely to stay. And finally, I have a last section here to show you how immigrants are doing in Atlantic Canada. And I have seen this at all skill levels. It turns out that overall in Canada, there are 20.4% of the labor force which were comprised of immigrants in 2006. In 2016, this has increased to close to 25%. In Atlantic Canada, the percentage rose from 3.4 to about 5% between 2006 and 2016. Immigrants' hourly wage rate in Canada in 2006, it was 1% below that of Canadian born. In 2016, it was 5% below that of Canadian born. But when we come to Atlantic Canada, in Atlantic Canada, immigrants tend to earn more than Canadian born. In 2006, they earned 21% more, but this gap shrank in 2016 to 5.6, but still they earn more than Canadian born. In recent immigrants' case, we find that the differential is larger. The reason, there are some reasons that can be given for the shrinking of the wage gap between Canadian-born and immigrants is the slowing down of the economy over the period, because many large projects, large capital projects, such as the Muskrat Falls project and oil projects in Newfoundland, in Nova Scotia, they were nearing completion. So because of this completion of those projects, and also in some governments, there was a cutback on fiscal spending, which caused some economic slowdown. And stats past evidence has suggested that during periods of downturn, immigrants are affected more than Canadian-born.
I'm going to need you to come to a conclusion.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all.
You're there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to start with Mr. Tabera for a 7-minute round.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for witnesses being here live and teleconference as well. My first question will go to Dan Ross Transportation. My question is If you can go through the steps of the hiring process of new immigrants, is there any barriers that you're having? I'm basically getting to the fact where maybe some of the new immigrants that have come, maybe the Syrian immigrants, they've had previous trucking experiences overseas, and how do they transition into that in Canada, and is it an easy process? And have you seen some success stories that we can work on that to increase more employment?
Well, we haven't been able to hire any Syrian refugee employees. Most of our foreign worker hiring has been coming from Europe or India, and we haven't had the opportunity to hire any Syrian refugees. So the challenge, or if one came to us, we would certainly have a look at trying to hire. One of the issues that may happen there could be a language barrier. Most of the drivers that we're hiring are for long haul trucking going to the U.S. So that could be an issue there with Syrian drivers. Challenges that we faced in hiring some people are the language component of the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Project, where someone would have to score a 4 to get in the program and a 5 to be able to apply for permanent residency. So that is a bit of a challenge there. And our other challenge, Crystal, what have you seen as challenges that you've faced?
The main thing with specifically the Syrian refugees has been the English language barrier. Any career fairs or anything that I've been a part of, then usually they have to come with somebody that's a translator, which obviously if they're going across the border, we do need them to speak and understand English. That would be the number one thing for me.
And with the pilot project, they have to have a certain amount of English. They have to pass an English test to enter that project, enter that pilot program. So, and there's different dynamics with different trucking companies. With Day and Ross, I'm contracted to Day and Ross. They don't really hire the drivers. I hire that driver. What I think you guys need to really look at is, okay, these guys don't have any trucks. They have a lot of trucks, but they're owner-operators. I have 6 trucks hired on for these guys. So I need a driver today. So I go to the pilot project. I do all the steps. Actually, I have Crystal helping me right now doing that. But I don't need 10 drivers. I have 25 or 30 applications on my computer today that people wanting to come here. I only need one guy. The Day and Ross company needs to be able to, in my view, take those applications, get them cleared, get them through this pilot project and say, okay, Mr. Tisdale, we have a driver if you need one. And whereas a company that has their own 500 trucks can do that, but these guys can't. And so puts them at a disadvantage and puts me at a disadvantage, I think.
Thank you. My next question will be to Mr. Akbari. You mentioned the stat for Nova Scotia on 2026. I don't know if you can pull that back up and just provide those stats. You said there's been decreases in population, etc. What I wanted to get to, and if you can pull those numbers up again, is that there's roughly, I think, around 10 post-secondary institutions, 10 universities in Nova Scotia, a community college, etc. How do we harness a lot of the students that are there and keep them in Nova Scotia, ensure that there's jobs available for them when they finish? You would think that with a province like that, with a high number of a lot of institutions, you would see an exponential growth of new graduates and staying within the region. But what we've heard in the committee is that they're migrating out to the bigger cities within Canada.
Yes, retaining international students as well as immigrants has been a challenge for the region. Governments have introduced different programs to retain international students. Nova Scotia government has a graduate stream in the PNP program, and they have themselves, the government itself has adopted different initiatives to employ graduate students. But it does remain a challenge. Many graduate students are also encouraged to open their own business. There is support for that, so that they become self-employed. And universities are also facilitating the employment of international students through their graduate recruitment offices, and those initiatives are having their result, but it does remain a challenge for the region. Yes.
You have 13 seconds.
It's okay.
Mr. McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank all three presenters, 4 or 5 of you, that are making the presentations to us this evening. It's very helpful. I just wanted to ask as well, first of all, Mr. Tisdale and Mr. Hatcher here, you've indicated that you have a situation of looking at paperwork and processing, I guess, of that being a problem. Can you just expand on that?
Well, yes, it just seems the from when this project started that what was explained to us starting with that is really not the reality of how this project is working right now. Things are changing, and it's the timeline to put someone through. I know, Dave, you had a challenge with the person you put through, the amount of time for him to get his work permit processed in Alberta took how many months?
It took a while. It took, I don't know, it was probably 6 or 8 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
To do that, and he was the guy that was already here. His LMIA had run out, and he heard about the pilot project, and the company that he was working for wasn't going to renew it, and wasn't going to have anything to do with the pilot project. So he was kind of in a bind, and so you had somebody do a presentation at Dan Ross. I sent my wife to that, and we were a little bit in tune with that pilot project, and we helped this guy out. And it took a while, and nobody really knew too much about the pilot project. I called TJ Harvey's office, got some help there. They were very helpful. I called a lot of people to get some help, and eventually we got him through. And then we ran into education problem. He had to send it back to wherever he was from,
the
Ukraine, and that took a month. And then it went to Alberta. That took a month and a little over a month because they were behind. And by the time he got to put it back so he could get his status, the time had run out.
Point you've indicated. I get the point. Thank you. You've indicated as well that you've got an extra 2,000 loads a year that you could ship to the United States if you had the drivers. So obviously you've got the economic activity there. Dr. Emery yesterday indicated to us in a presentation here that before us that capital draws business and draws investment. You will see that because you're hauling products from many companies in the Maritimes in Atlantic Canada. And can you just indicate your thoughts in regards to what needs to be done to enhance that? Obviously, we've got capital-intensive businesses in other parts of Canada. I mentioned that earlier in reports today. The oil industry out west, the agricultural industry, which is a big part of Maritimes as well. they're capital intensive. And so if you've got those businesses there, what else can be done to attract that kind of economic activity? And can you tell me whether or not you think that the corporate tax changes that the government has proposed would be a detriment to businesses expanding in the Maritimes?
Well, I'm not quite. I haven't quite had the chance to look at the corporate tax changes that are coming. So I can't. I don't want to be able to speak to that or on behalf of Day & Ross or our industry. I just know that that the trucking industry is a very capital heavy industry. To buy a truck for our brokers like Dave Tisdale would cost about $230,000 or more in that ballpark. So any tax break that could assist them would be great and would spur economic growth. Would allow Dave to buy more trucks and put more drivers in it. And as a company too, with Day & Ross, I think we look at that the same way too. We're continually investing in new trailers and our owner operators through increases in their pay packages and that. But I'm not sure how the tax issues are going to affect you, Dave. Are you?
I'm not sure either. I haven't followed up on this. That's my accountant's job to tell me that.
Yeah, we've heard from a lot of those. I just wanted to lastly ask. You're looking for truckers all the time. I'm from Manitoba. I see lots of Day Ross trucks crossing the country. Are you? And there's a growing, with the amount of trucks we have in Manitoba companies, a growing number of women interested in driving trucks in the future here as well, or has been over the last few years. Are you seeing that as well?
Oh yes, most definitely. And Crystal, I have her involved in a project or a committee advancing women in trucking. So we are more than happy to hire female drivers. We have many husband-wife teams that we employ. So it is a growing segment in our industry, and we're doing what we can to help our industry grow in that.
And Mr. Akbari, you indicated that the rural is more impacted than most of the urban population or most of the urban centers in regards to these declines. Can you just expand on that? Obviously, if the population is going to be down in the Maritimes or in Atlantic Canada in 2026 by 4.6%, with 71% being seniors that are left, what economic programs do you see necessary to stimulate the economy to get young people to not only stay in the Maritimes, but also attract new companies?
In about 20 seconds.
New companies or public offerings as well?
Natural resource-based companies are mostly located in rural Atlantic Canada. So something could be done to promote the natural resource-based industries like agricultural and fish industries. They are important for there. Already there are some incentives provided for people to move to rural Canada and stay to rural Atlantic Canada and stay there. New immigrant physicians, when they come in and they are preparing for their licensing, they are attached to a mentor, and that mentor helps them practice in their field while they are located in rural Atlantic Canada. So that's one way that they are doing that. So we need similar kinds of schemes to provide incentives to newcomers to settle more in rural Atlantic Canada.
Thank you, Professor.
And we have found that there has been an increasing trend in that.
Ms. Kwan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for their presentation. I'm interested, Mr. Hatcher, you mentioned that in your presentation for the pilot program that you know of a group who's excluded from being able to get into the pilot program because their business existed for less than 2 years. Did I hear you correctly in saying that?
Yes, we have people that are excluded because they haven't been in business for 2 years. And we also have some brokers that work for us that are based in Ontario who will place jobs in Atlantic Canada, but they are excluded from this pilot project as well because they're not based in Atlantic Canada. I can see benefit for the provinces in Atlantic Canada if these people were allowed to hire drivers and put the jobs in Atlantic Canada. I think it is virtually the same as having an Atlantic Canada company such as Dave Tisdale trucking hiring people.
I see. And just so that I'm clear, these workers that you're hiring, they're all temporary foreign workers. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, they are. They're temporary foreign workers who will be fast tracked into the provincial nominee program.
Right. And so what if the government were to look at revamping our immigration policy, and that is to say that these temporary foreign workers actually, in fact, when they come to Canada right off the top, that they actually come as permanent residents and not have to go through this whole process of getting a work permit, being delayed in a work permit, and then having to go through another process to get their permanent resident status. Would that be something that would be helpful and beneficial for the Atlantic provinces and for your businesses?
Most definitely be beneficial to a company like Day and Ross Transport. That would mean a foreign worker coming in or that has permanent residency can become his own business right away and be an owner-operator for us. That would be an ideal situation for us, Day and Ross Transport.
Most people, when they come here, they want to be an owner-operator. They want to go to the next step. They want to have their own business. And in my mind, and most other people, if you have your own business and you're based in Atlantic Canada, you're going to stay there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But if you're working for me and you get your permanent residency, then you could take off and go somewhere else. That's the difference.
Yeah.
So our standpoint is like we're looking at it from two different aspects. It's Day and Ross who wants to hire owner operators and business people, but we're also looking at our brokers who have empty trucks that we want to fill those empty trucks with foreign drivers.
I see. Thank you.
Yes. And Jenny, I just want to, with the revenue that an owner-operator generates would be a phenomenal amount of money for some of these foreign workers that are coming in. It's one of the better paying jobs that someone can get in Atlantic Canada. So we're more than happy to bring in as many permanent residents as we can right off the bat.
Thank you. Yes, and the added advantage to that, of course, would be not only would you get the worker, you get the worker's family. And as we're hearing all kinds of statistics about the aging population, and in fact, earlier today we had another panel, and our statistics that came through, it was quite shocking, really, because the information provided to us is to say that the death rate actually is exceeding the birth rate. So really, making people wait and not having your family here doesn't make any sense at all for our immigration policy, and most particularly, it appears to me, doesn't make any sense at all for the Atlantic provinces. Okay.
If I could just interrupt for one sec, I won't take your time. I think we might have heard Ms. Huang trying to get in on the telephone. I just want to check with her in case she had something to add.
Sure. Yes, of course.
Is she still there?
Yes. Yeah, I'm still here.
Were you just trying to say something?
No, I wasn't.
All right. Just if you do, just sort of yell.
Okay, well.
Sorry, I heard a noise.
Waving to say yell. And so, right. Anyway. Okay, thank you for that. I want to ask this question on resettlement services, because earlier today we also heard of issues around helping immigrant population and refugees resettle, right? And then so therefore retention and attraction would also be a key part. And did I hear you, Mr. Hatcher, correctly when you said that the service agency, the resettlement service agency that you have to use for this purpose is 5 other agencies outside of your region? Did I hear? Can you elaborate on that, please?
Well, that was a little bit confusing to me too. There are 5 settlement agencies, I believe Halifax, Montreal, Toronto, a couple in Toronto and one in Vancouver, that any foreign worker that we're looking to hire has to contact one of these settlement agencies, and they put the settlement plan together for the foreign worker coming over. And I don't think that that someone working in a settlement agency in Toronto really understands rural New Brunswick and knows the challenges that a foreign worker would have here, or that someone would have working here. So there are settlement agencies such as the Multicultural Association here in New Brunswick that are in the town of Woodstock, New Brunswick, that could really do or benefit the foreign worker much better than going through one of those other
You know
agencies.
why that your own region's agency is excluded in this process? Can you tell us why that is?
It is excluded for people that are outside the country that are wanting to come in. It is just part of the process with the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Project.
But we don't know why.
Yeah, so a policy change needs to take place with respect to that, to use local people, local talent, and so on.
Of course, yes.
Because when they do get here, when they do arrive in Canada, that's one of the first steps that we as employers are supposed to do, is put them into contact with these people. If they've already built that relationship, it's another retention aspect to it.
John, another immigration policy change perhaps that would be beneficial to the Atlantic provinces, and I would argue for the rest of the country as well, on the language issue. Earlier, again, we had a panel, and particularly from an employer who's from the agriculture industry, and the language requirement in the written format and in the verbal format is onerous for people who may not be sitting down writing reports and stuff like that all the time, right? And so, again, on that language requirement, I wonder if you can shed some light. If those requirements were reduced, would that enhance also for people in your industry?
Very briefly.
Oh.
Well, we need a language. They need to know English because they travel across into the States, and there has to be a certain level.
Sorry, level 4 right now is the requirement, so both in written and in verbal. So do you think that that's the level that's required?
Well,
or a lower level?
Yeah, no, level 4 would be fine if it was for the whole program. But for someone to get in the provincial nominee program to get their permanent residency, they must score a level 5. And with the drivers that we're hiring, we don't have time, or they're on the road driving, they don't have time to take English classes to get to that level 5. So right now, we're just looking for people with level 5.
4.
English.
Oh, level 5, yes.
Yeah.
So,
I need to end there, just over 8. Mr. Harvey, it is a pleasure to have you with us tonight.
I knew it would be. I want to start by first acknowledging Ms. Kwan's comments, and I think they're very reflective of my own comments and where I'm going to go with this too. So I'm going to build on what she was speaking about, and I'm going to add a little bit of context to the conversation before we get too far along. So I'm just going to give you a few facts, and they're based on the recent study that was done by the Canadian Trucking Alliance, which states that by 2024, we'll have an estimated shortfall of transportation drivers in Canada of 48,000. So we'll be short 48,000 by 2024. The average age of a transportation driver will be 49, which is up from, in 2024, which will be up from 44 in 2006, which means that that demographic's aging, and they're just not being replaced. And that 20% of the Canadian workforce in the transportation industry is already comprised of temporary foreign workers. And that industry represent will represent $24.1 billion in GDP to this country by 2024, and it's increasing at a rate of about 2.2% per year. So I wanted to state that. I also want to touch on the Multicultural Association, because you spoke, quite positively about the Carleton County Multicultural Association, which is led by Celeste Roberts. She definitely understands the intricacies of having a robust multicultural association in a very rural area. So, for context, the town of Woodstock would have around 6,500 residents, and the town of Florenceville, Bristol, where that association originated, has about 1,600. But it has one of the it's one of the strongest multicultural associations in Atlantic Canada. And the reason why is because of companies like McCain Foods and Dan Ross Transport, who have really led that charge to be inclusive employers in a rural area. So kudos to you for that. My riding of Towick-Mactaquac, of which Dan Ross Transport is located basically in the middle, has around over 350 transportation companies in a very rural riding. And the reason why is because it's where the I-95 intersects with the Trans-Canada. So it's a strategic transportation corridor. And of the majority of those companies, I would venture to guess, and our witnesses can give me their thoughts, but I would say probably the average size of those transportation companies is 6 to 8 trucks, probably in that ballpark. They're predominantly groups of either owner-operators or very small companies that work as brokers for companies like Dan Ross Transport. And I'm acutely aware of the struggles that both Dave and his wife Janice went through with their first application under the Atlantic Immigration Pilot. And there was, at the beginning when the program was starting, they were there at the ground floor. They were there on day one, and they really pushed hard to get through the program. But there were gaps in knowledge as to how the program was going to roll out at the beginning, and I think a lot of the struggles that they faced were directly related to that. And it's definitely has the possibility of being a much stronger program. I used to be in the transportation industry. I understand the struggles what it's like to get drivers. In fact, the first highway truck that I bought from Dave. And I think I was 24 years old, and I made him clean his stuff out of it. I drove by and bought it right out of his dooryard. But can you speak to, can you elaborate some on the importance of having this pilot in place as it relates to what Ms. Kwan's comments were around allowing families to come together and stay together and be here? Because having used the LMIA program myself in food processing industry, I've seen firsthand the struggles that families go through in trying to get here in a piecemeal fashion over 6 or 8 years. It's absolutely ridiculous. So can you speak to the importance of, what you're hearing from drivers, the importance of having the ability for their families to come here with them at that time, and how that relates to their work life?
Sure. I will start with this. One of the keys, I think, to having people settle and stay in New Brunswick is having them come with their PR, or at least a faster path to the PR, because we can get a family coming as a unit and have the husband working, driving a truck, and the wife is going to be able to work too. A family then will have some roots in our province or in our town here of Woodstock or Heartland, and they feel part of the community. Under the LMIA process, if a truck driver come in and a spouse has come along, the spouse would not be able to work. And I don't think that fosters a good community relationship. We need 2 people working, the family unit together, and we will see a successful immigration process in New Brunswick. Dave, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I've had. I'm glad you didn't hold that against me, TJ. There, that truck.
That was a great truck. I still own it.
Do you? Good. I've had people come in with, and their wives come here on that under that LMIA program, and not able to work, and it took them 2 years to get. Then the guy did his due diligence, and they struggled. They really struggled. They lived in where I wouldn't live. I can tell you that. If the two of them could have worked, they could have upgraded themselves right away. And what they ended up doing was, as soon as he got his permanent residency, moved to Ontario. And why wouldn't he? Because what he saw in Atlantic Canada was a struggle. So if we can get these people in, get their families here, get their wives so they can work right away, they can have a better quality of life. They can buy a car. They'll keep, and you know the process. Then they'll end up buying a truck. They'll buy groceries. It just stimulates the economy, and eventually they'll buy their own truck and become their own business person. I feel.
I'm afraid I need to end you there. We had 4 minutes and 45 seconds of preamble.
It's all good. It was important to get those statistics out there.
Good. Thank you very much to the panel who are joining us from Moncton, to Professor, and to Ms. Huang as well for your contribution to us. Our study will be done in a few weeks. It'll be available, and we hope that it's going to be help both to you in your work. It will reflect the research that you're doing, and we can continue to grow Atlantic Canada. So thank you very much. We'll take a brief pause, and we'll bring in our second set. I'll just wait till the picture's taken and then we'll begin. Very good. We'll reconvene and we have two panels, two sets of witnesses tonight. From Restaurants Canada, Vice President of the Atlantic Board, Luc Ershevek, and Bill Allen, the chair of the board, as well from Nova Scotia, Heather Colomb, who is there on teleconference. Are you there, Heather?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Very good. So we're going, I think we'll actually begin with Ms. Colomb. We've done so well with technology today. Don't want to jinx it, but let's begin with Ms. Colomb for 7 minutes, and then we'll go to our guests who are here in person.
Okay, my name is Heather Austin Colomb. I guess I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I returned home to Cape Breton in the spring of 2016 to run my family business of 25 years, the Farmer's Daughter Country Market. The best way to describe the Farmer's Daughter is a general store. We have an in-store bakery where everything is made from scratch, a grill where you can get such things as a burger or fish tacos. We have the best sandwiches, they are made with our own fresh bread. We roast our own meats. We have hard and soft ice cream, frozen meals, specialty groceries, seasonal products, gifts, and clothing. We are open 361 days of the year, so only closed 3 days a year. Winters are hard for our business and getting harder as the population decreases. 3 longtime businesses have closed in our community, 2 gas stations and a restaurant. We are located on the Trans-Canada Highway, so we have lots of traffic, and we're at the head of the Bador Lakes. We are a community of around 1,000 people, 400 in the village of Waikagama, and about 600 Wakaba First Nations. We're a very integrated community, and I think that's an amazing thing that I grew up with, and I'm still very happy to be part of that. Presently, in the slow season, I employ 28 people. In our high season, 40 to 50 people. In the summer, I get by students who return to school in September, when I am busy right up until Christmas. Last summer, I relied on students more than ever, and September 1st had me really scared on how I was going to get by after then. I did all the normal recruiting using Service Canada, Facebook, and Instagram ads. I advertised in Kijiji, both locally and nationally. I did not have one person apply that could legally work for me at the time. I had foreign workers. I had foreign workers applies. None, though, that would have been a good fit for my community. But even if they did, the process to have them work here was going to be too long, and I was told that I did not qualify for the foreign worker program as our unemployment rate is too high, which is hard to believe because in my area, excuse me, everyone I know is working, and I'm not the only business screening for workers. Cape Breton is considered one region, so our whole island is considered one region. Yes, in industrial Cape Breton, there's not enough work for a lot of people, but in rural Cape Breton, there are not enough workers. My sister had a solution. Show people how great Cape Breton was, and they will want to live here. But our thing was, how do we do that? After a couple of weeks, my sister had the idea. We give people our land, which has been in our family for a while. So we went ahead and we wrote the now very famous Facebook ad that has been shared all over the world. We offered 2 free acres of land for a work commitment of at least 5 years. We disclosed that the wage was low, around $11 or $12 an hour, that the land they were receiving was on a listed road, but they'd have to live off the grid. And we also disclosed that our winters are hard. To date, we've had over 300,000 inquiries. And the why is the big question. Some see it as a job, any job that can get them to Canada. But most see it as a lifestyle, a sustainable lifestyle, a rural lifestyle. I've had doctors, lawyers, high-power executives from cities such as New York, Toronto, London, ready to give up their jobs and come to Cape Breton. Successful business owners from South Africa, England, and Sweden want to move their businesses here that are tourism related, such as the Amazonian Lodge in Drakensberg, the Natural Veg Men from England, and Wilderness and Wilderness Life Natural Adventures from Sweden. Those are successful businesses that are wanting to move to Cape Breton. I've also had a former Major League Baseball player wanting to base his new music career from here. And thousands of IT professionals working from home wanting to relocate here. However, internet capabilities are not just able to accommodate them at the time. These are all people looking for a rural lifestyle, a sustainable lifestyle. Cape Breton and Atlantic Canada are unique. Most of our cities are growing while our rural areas are declining. Businesses and schools are closing. With this campaign, I have brought 4 employees to my business, totaling 13 new residents to Cape Breton. I have met 3 families that were considering other parts of Canada, but after seeing my post, moved here. Not to work, but to start their own business. A newly married electrician and his new wife from Ontario. An overwhelmed dad from BC and his 6 kids just put an offer on a small farm about half an hour from me. And they want to just work that farm and sell it, are now becoming more and more busier and productive farmers markets. A newly married, a worker who works 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off in the Arctic, has a wife and 2 kids, and he's from Ontario. He's wanting to set up base here now. Other municipalities have also contacted me. Lunenburg County, they are having the same issue recruiting people to work for them. And they have contacted me, and they did a campaign this year because they were wanting to meet with me and see what I did. They were sending a bus all across Canada trying to recruit employees. The Shedicamp Chamber of Commerce has come to me and asked me if I can help them come up with an idea of how they can recruit people, because they're just an hour away from us. And tomorrow I'm speaking at the Colchester County, which is down in Truro, Chamber of Commerce, about, because they are having issues too. All smaller rural areas, not the big cities. Catalina, who we call Lena, joined us in June. She is a landed immigrant from the Philippines who spent the last year back in the Philippines because her mother was dying of cancer. She has lived in the cities of Niagara Falls, Kingston, Ontario, Toronto, and Vancouver. She came to Canada wanting to be embraced, found it hard to make friends that weren't from the Philippines or other parts of Asia. She has not come across any discrimination since moving to Waikagama, and has told me for the first time in her life she felt like she belongs, finally part of a community. Areas like ours are usually a stepping stone to get to Canada, and after a few years leave us and move to the cities like Toronto or Vancouver. Local Tim Hortons and Robin's Donuts have brought employees here to work, and none of them are here now. They have moved on to what they say the bigger, better things of the cities. We need to make sure that immigrants in Cape Breton and Atlantic Canada are going to stay, that they are going to be the right fit. Bring them to the areas where they're going to be embraced. We do not fit under the same rules as the big cities where there are lots of immigrants. We're unique, and we cannot be the stepping stone. So many people have contacted me saying they've already approved to come to Canada. But when I look at what they are bringing to me, they're not going to be a good fit for my business or my community. And I think that is where we really have to work, is bring in the right people that are going to move to Cape Breton or Atlantic Canada that are looking for the lifestyle, not just a job. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity for me to speak tonight.
Thank you very much. I just will add, it's great-looking lemon meringue pie on your Facebook page. Mr. Erjavec. Erjavec.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight on behalf of Canada's $80 billion food service industry and about immigration to Atlantic Canada. Food service industry is a vital part of Atlantic Canada. Restaurants are one of the only industries to span the rural-urban divide and operate in every corner in the region, from the large cities to the remote communities. In Atlantic Canada, we're the third largest private sector employer, with nearly 70,000 employees generating $4.7 billion in sales and 1.8 million customer visits a day. We are also proud to open a door to opportunities for young people, new Canadians, and those facing barriers to employment. Every dollar spent in a restaurant generates $1.85 in the rest of the economy, providing opportunities for farmers, fishers, builders, designers, brewers, and a whole list of other local suppliers. More than 2/3 of our 7,000 businesses in the region are independently owned and operated. Our pubs, our bars, our coffee shops, they're the centerpiece of most communities, welcoming tourists and locals alike. We are grateful to be consulted on Atlantic immigration, and we believe it is crucial to survival of both the region and our businesses. An abundant workforce is essential to the industry because of the labor-intensive nature of the business. Nearly 30 cents of every dollar in payroll coming in sales goes directly to payroll in our businesses. We are also an industry of young people and proud to be the country's largest provider of first-time job experiences. Nearly half of our employees are under the age of 26. This is a major reason why we need more immigration to Atlantic Canada, because this region we are experiencing the nation's largest decline in youth. The labor shortage in Atlantic Canada is real, and the shortage of key staff is leading operators to decide to reduce hours or close early. This leads to fewer hours and job opportunities for other restaurant staff and a smaller market for our suppliers. In fact, in our recent quarterly survey, 55% of our operators say that the labor shortage is having a negative impact on their business. The industry always tries to hire Canadians first, and we are continually trying to find employees in underutilized labor pools. However, this has not curbed the demand or filled our need, and the industry is experiencing acute shortages, particularly for cooks and kitchen helpers. Without these key employees, operators are forced to curb hours to prevent employee burnout. This leads to fewer offerings for tourists, less economic activity for communities, fewer hours for employees, and fewer sales for industry suppliers. Restaurant operators are desperate for employees, particularly for cooks in many low-skilled positions. In recent years, the restaurant industry has been a top user of both the Temporary Foreign Worker Program and the Provincial Nominee Program to meet our labor demands. In combination, we found these extremely useful in finding employees and transitioning them to become Atlantic Canadians. P&B programs have been the most helpful, and I encourage you to recommend the expansion of these programs with the inclusion of all skill levels. When the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program was announced, we were very optimistic and extremely pleased because it did not require an expensive LMIA, and we thought it would be efficient and focused. Experience has taught us that efficient and focused are the last words that we would ever use to describe this program. To business operators, it is extremely complex, complicated, time-consuming, and a bureaucratic process that has made many operators decide to just give up in frustration rather trying to use this program. We need these 2,000 extra immigrants, but we're afraid that we won't reach the numbers and it will not be renewed. Most employees who have attempted to use this program have become designated employers and have been waiting in limbo for months and months for third-party settlement plans, letter of endorsements from a different level of government, or for the Immigration Department to process a candidate's application. I'm going to turn over to Bill, who's the chair of our national board, but an operator in New Brunswick who has operations in 3 of the maritime provinces, who has used many of these programs and has been proud to bring many people to settle in Atlantic Canada.
Thanks, Luke. And appreciate being invited to attend this evening. I'll just give you a little bit of history in regards to how beneficial the Temporary Foreign Worker Program and the Atlantic Pilot Program have been. Over the last 10 years, my group of 6 restaurants throughout Atlantic Canada, PEI, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, have utilized the program to bring in over 50 temporary foreign workers who have made their way through into the provincial nomination program and then through to, in many cases, their PR. Been successful, has been rewarding, and has been a tremendous help to the consistent operation of our businesses. And very appreciated by the Canadian component who have worked for us. Prior to the program, we were struggling to maintain operation, closing part of our dining rooms, just because we could not get the manpower and the fuel to put into the system in the restaurants. And we would cut back hours. We went from one of the travel plazas, which is the Big Stop, running 24 hours to 18 hours because we just couldn't find enough people. And consequently, Canadians were lost positions as servers in those situations as well. And life started to return to normal once we started to utilize the program and had the benefit of having the temporary foreign workers in the program, and then they became provincial nomination certificate holders as well, and permanent residences eventually. Our business activities became very professional, and it was easier to operate. And the good stories about that is many of the Canadians who work side by side with the culinary talent that we were able to bring in, they ended up being inspired by some of the skill sets that they were able to work with, and consequently moved on to get their own culinary degree. And I've been able to work with them and see them develop in the industry as a whole and become chefs in higher-end hotels or higher-end restaurants. The previous program worked well, and I thank you for all of the work that we did with that one. I was really pleased with the Atlantic Pilot Program and excited to get engaged with that and start to use it. Slowed down the applications for the LMIAs in the process because we had the opportunity to use the Atlantic Immigration, the pilot program. Then it all stopped and got to a snail's pace as far as the processing. The application process is extremely complex, and if you want details in regards to that, I'm open to help you with all of that. I handle them all in-house with one of our administrative people ourselves, so it's not an immigration consultant we use, and I've become very familiar with the process and that. Under the new program, there's the language testing that needs to be done and the credentials that needs to be done, and that has to be facilitated by the candidate in the country that they're in. They have to find a spot where they can get that done in the country they reside. That could be a 2-week or 2-month situation. Then they need the money to do their language testing skills. That's followed by a skills credential process that they need to complete online to validate that they fit the skill set that's required in the occupation. And after this is all completed, then they have to do a settlement process, which is an online process and quite often very intimidating for the candidate. And we can only help them with so much of it. You have to rely on them to fill out each piece of this complex process. And that's where it became very difficult. In addition to that, it's not a digital application.
To wrap up, if you can.
Okay. It's not a digital application. This is a 55-page paper application. This is how complex the Atlantic program is for one candidate. And that would take 6 or 8 months to get to this point so we can process. So that gives you a little bit of a history on ourselves and how I've used the program.
Thank you very much. Mr. Anandasengari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here. I've actually, I think the last 2 years, I've gone to all the Atlantic provinces, and I've probably been to your restaurants as well. And I can tell you, I was quite surprised. I was in St. Anthony's in June, and I went to the Tim Hortons, and I was quite surprised at the staff at Tim Hortons, and I started to talk to them, and they're actually temporary foreign workers from different parts of the world. And I'm very curious in terms of what you've said now with respect to processing. Have you had anyone come through the pilot to work at any of your restaurants?
No.
Okay. And how many
16 people in process. It's not difficult to find candidates.
Right.
It's very difficult for them to meet all of the pieces that are required for them to even get endorsed.
Okay. And then with respect to you said you had about 50 people that came through as temporary foreign workers?
And 30 of them with their permanent residency would still be working with us and are still working with us.
They're still
today.
working?
Yeah.
And they have no mobility restrictions? So
No mobility restrictions at all.
And the other 20, did they go back? Or did they,
some of them went home at the end of their contract and work permit. Others moved to different areas of the country, and some of them locally. Others would end up in Vancouver or Toronto.
Okay. But from a retention perspective, that's pretty
yeah, I'm
decent.
proud of that number.
Yeah.
And I think that we create an environment and we work hard to do that, then it works well for everyone.
Right. I guess in terms of your industry, is this something like maybe Mr. Erzovich, if you can kind of give us a sense as to the other regions? Have you had any experience with the pilot project, and whether you've had any members who were successful?
There have been. I've been speaking to most of the provincial governments on this. We have a tight working relationship, and we have lots of designated employers, lots of candidates through. We're actually in most provinces. We're the number 1 or 2 industry utilizing, being endorsed as an industry, and there have been some through, but it's a relative handful. It's it's complicated when you have 2 levels of government, a third-party agency plus third-party certifiers, to get them all together to make them all click. It's just months and months, and for an operator who's just trying to keep his doors open and run a business, they get frustrated and just give up.
And many of the restaurants are seasonal in Atlantic Canada, or
mine are all full-time year-round. But everything changed under the new program from what we were familiar with the old program. And at first I thought it was a learning curve, but for example, in one of my first applications, within the space of 3 days, I was told 3 different ways by 3 different people on what the next step was and where I should apply for the work permit. And the border agents would not process, which typically could happen if someone was in Canada. So that couldn't happen. The next time I was told to send it to Vegreville. The next time I was told to send it to New York. And that person didn't have the timeline with their passport. They could not have processed in New York. So they had to go back to the country of origin to apply in the embassy. So that's just the complexity of the program.
Now, thank you very much for this that feedback. So, Ms. Columba, I just quite amazed at your efforts. I think it seems quite impressive, and I do recall reading about this several weeks ago. Can you just tell us what your reaction is when you receive 300 applications and or 300 people expressing interest, and what kind of questions they pose to you, and do they actually know about Cape Breton, or was it just a random thing that they came across on the web?
It's 300,000.
300,000. I'm sorry. That's what I meant.
Yeah. And still climbing every day, and it's been a year. So most of them, like when we did, or if you see our posts, we really highlighted with a lot of pictures of Cape Breton, and we talked about how the lifestyle that we lived here, and the ones that so many people have put a huge effort to come in their applications, like pictures and long write-ups, and I've had videos, and it's pretty incredible. But a lot of them, it's been about the lifestyle here that they are looking for. And I have my biggest thing is my bakery and my food service that I have, and I did hire 2 people from BC who actually were in the food service industry prior, and those are the 2 that didn't end up working out and left on me. The ones that have worked for me are people actually from a little bit of a higher education that are come here for the lifestyle and are very happy and have never baked or never made a sandwich or grilled, and they're doing that for me now. So with looking at the program of immigration, me hiring maybe people with the food service just is not the right fit for my area. It's the people that want the lifestyle that I can offer. And
I think with respect to actual application to the pilot, do you know how many of the 300,000 have actually gone to the extent of putting in an application?
I do not. Probably about, I'd say, 15-20% that come through saying they've already have their application through and they've been accepted, and that they need that.
Have any of them come and spoken to you, or like are they in contact with you, and what kind of response are you getting from them?
Well, I still have 13,000 unread emails. Like, we are totally flooded. Like, I'm running a business. I do have some Cape Breton partnership that has been trying to help me out. And I actually have a COA now contacting me because they're looking at this as an opportunity to bring people to our area. And they want, like, I have a huge resource here, you know, all these people wanting to come to Cape Breton, and probably for the right reason. And I do not know those numbers. We're still trying to get through all the emails. So, and it's been a year. So, like, last September, on September 16th last year, we posted the ad on August 29th. It had gone viral, but it went really viral. We were getting something like 10,000 emails a day. So it went pretty crazy. And it's from all over the world.
That's quite remarkable, and you know, I would almost suggest you take the list of your local member of parliament and have them sort it out and maybe make the calls. But thank you very much for thank you very much for doing this, and quite impressive the work that you've done from where you're at. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first of all, I want to say hi, Heather. I'm the Member of Parliament from Brandon Souris in southwest Manitoba, and about last September 5th or 6th, I happened to be driving through your community and stopped to have lunch. I met you and your father and your sister that noon hour, I guess it was, and I can attest that the lemon meringue pie, Mr. Chair, is even better in person than it is on the video. I wanted to say that tremendous. You had just posted, as you've just said, end of August. I was there about a week later, and you were already enthused about the response you've had in the first week. There's something to be said about, from many of the witnesses we've seen in this committee, about lifestyle and about what we can do. And I open this up to our other colleagues here for their presentations tonight as well. And I thank you both for being here for that, because some of it is how we treat people when they arrive in our doorsteps and in our communities and in our businesses. And I know Mr. Allen's just indicated the work that he's done to try and attract and keep workers that have come to his shops. And you've done the same by the 2 acres of land for a home, basically. What an opportunity for people to get started. I'm not surprised that you've got some, but I am surprised that you've got 300,000 responses. Can you just elaborate in your mind as to how important it is? You've indicated that you work with low wages, you've offered off-grid living, you've been very honest and upright with the kinds of winters we have, the internet needs you have, but yet people are coming. And can you just elaborate on how important that has been, and how we can learn as a committee here from being able to support that for other businesses as well?
I think it's important because it's showing actually how many people want that, and how people have responded. If you haven't already seen the Vice News came up and did an article, came and did a segment on us, and they did a really good job. And they really stressed the population decrease. You know, Cape Breton Island has 130,000 people, and we lose 1,000 people a year. You know, but you know, we are still trying to. Like, I have a business here that I'm trying to keep the people who want to stay here full time all year round, and it's just. It obviously is hitting a chord with people from all over the world, and we really need to, I think, focus on that and try to work our immigration program around that, getting the right people here, not just people that need to come and work. That's why I stress the people here who have successful businesses in other parts of the world that want to come here, but they're contacting me. Like, so many people are contacting me when they should be contacting someone a lot easier that can actually help them more. And I think how to get that out to everybody.
We've seen or been told in this committee that capital investment attracts businesses and attracts both public and private sector funds to help, which is needed to help create immigration and employment in those areas. And if you're going to have immigration, you've got to have jobs for people. And in my rural communities, I know people have been very good with bringing in refugees. They find homes, they make sure there's work, they get the kids into school, that sort of thing. But we've got tax changes here now that are going to affect businesses in Canada and make it a little tougher. You've indicated that there's low wages, off-grid, these sorts of things. I know that you're developing a very good business. I saw it because I stopped because all of a sudden there it was, and I'd seen it on TV as your inaugural output of your site. Can you say how these tax changes would affect you, and would it make it easier? I mean, they're looking at capital gains taxes, passive income dealings, as well as the sprinkling for businesses in your family is a fine example. Can you just say whether or not you feel these would, certainly I don't believe, going to enhance your business, but would they negatively impact you?
Well, the way we're working right now, it's the sprinkling and all that. My kids are coming into that now. They do work for me, but I don't think that's going to affect me too much. The big thing I hear about is possibly doing the staff discounts and stuff, and that's somehow kind of how I subsidize my staff. You know, they get discounts, and to start possibly taxing them on that, that has a concern for me. But for the new tax changes, just the way we run things right now, I don't think it's going to affect me, too much. So.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to turn that over to Mr. Allen, Mr. Erkovec here.
Just remind the member to stay within the scope of the study on your questions. Thank you.
Business costs, and it doesn't matter if it's taxation or fees. I guess it speaks a little bit to the processes in terms of immigration. For us as small businesses with 4% margins, we're not choosing to have to go, hiring immigration consultants or paying $1,000 for an LMI because we want to. It's desperation. We would rather hire Canadians. We're looking for Canadians. We're looking for underutilized pools of labor. And, going this route is extremely expensive and frustration and time consuming, but it's the last resort because it is expensive. And, some people still use the temporary foreign worker program, but it's $1,000 a pop for an LMIA. And if they send it back for some strange reason, what happens regularly, it's another $1,000. Or trying to go through that process. And, time is money. So it's, everything's about cost, and I guess we just want, we want a pathway to citizenship for immigrants. And, I know the temporary foreign worker program got a bad rap, but honestly, my heart, I have to tell you, it worked well for Atlantic Canada, because someone sitting in the Philippines or India or wherever, they've never heard of Atlantic Canada. They've heard of Calgary and Vancouver and Toronto, and they all go there.
It worked pretty well for Southwest Manitoba as well.
So they go to temporary foreign worker program. They came to Olac or Fredericton or Cape Breton and said, gosh, this is a nice place. I want to raise my family here. And we have such a good relationship with the provincial immigration departments that we rolled them into the PMP, and they became part of our communities, and they stayed. And that's what we hope this program will work. But if we can just... It's a great program. We love it. 2,000 extra people, but make it that it's not paper. Have a portal. Have it so you don't. You can move someone within your business. If it's a seasonal business, you have to guarantee them hours. If this restaurant's not busy, you want to switch them to the one down the street. So there's so many things to do it to make it better and reduce costs and bring people to a region that's desperate for people and businesses that are desperate for employees.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kwan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for their presentation. I am particularly interested in the notion of what you were suggesting of a permanent pathway to permanent residence, right? And so, and I'm curious because we've heard it from other presenters as well. What people really want is for people to come and stay. And so instead of even a temporary foreign workers program, would you support a immigration policy change that would actually allow for individuals to come as a permanent resident at the outset? So instead of them coming as a permanent resident, be separated from their family, have to go through the process of getting LMIAs and permits and so on and so forth, work permits and so on and so forth, and then eventually, hopefully, land towards a permanent residence pathway. We used to have a program under the experienced skilled workers, and then maybe to take that kind of program to expand it to the whole range of different skills, medium, high, or low, to fit the needs of the different communities. Would that be something that would make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's pathway to citizenship. You know, we want the people to come to our communities and work in our communities and stay in our communities, and we want their families. Like, you know, Bill has families who've brought over and they've been reunited, and they're loving. They love it. It's a great. We have a great country and a great region.
So there's a lot of people who work for me now who have always had to work internationally at one location or another, and not with their family on a regular basis, and have. Almost all of them have brought their family to Canada and have settled in. The only danger of the coming in completely with permanent residency is there's a transition period that takes place for temporary foreign workers, and whether on their first work permit, and they're in a rural area. It takes a while for them to get comfortable and integrated and meet the other people in the community and their coworkers. But eventually they get settled in, the anxiety ceases, and with that one-year work permit and under the LMIA and then the provincial nomination piece, it really helps the consistency of integration. By that time, they've settled into the community as well as their family, and it helps the maintenance and the retention of those employees in our regions where they're at. So I think that slows down the process to a certain extent, but it helps them get settled in the communities where they originally intend to be.
Because the danger is sometimes, you know, if they, you know, and it's not always the case, but if they're unhappy or uncomfortable, say, I will be more happy with a bigger community of people of my same nationality and move to Toronto or Vancouver. And that's always a risk. So, you know, it really worked well with the transition where they got to test drive the employer and the community. And
well, I think my retention speaks to that, and when it's really rewarding when you see these people who have come in under a one-year work permit. It would be ideal too, because it's very difficult to get them enrolled in the provincial nomination program within that first year. But by the time they get through the provincial nomination certificate, they have their stream to permanent residency, and they've established a stability base with their families in the community, and they stay. So it's a win-win for Atlantic Canada, for the employers, and it's great integration. I've had times where my employees have, in the middle of a snowstorm, I've been concerned about them and how they were going to get home, especially some of the temporary foreign workers. The end of the shift, in the middle of the night, at midnight, I'd go down to one of our restaurants to make sure they could get home okay. And 4 of my other Canadian workers were there to greet them, to do the same thing, because they're that attached to these new people, and I think that those are heartwarming stories.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you build communities,
right?
And that's what you're talking about. And I think immigration policies, I actually firmly believe that our immigration policy builds our nation. It built our nation previously. This is our 150th birthday.
Completely
and
agree.
Our great country has been built by the people from the faces of the world, right?
Yep.
And so we're now talking about that. And so the pathway to permanence is so significant. Separation from families is a very big deal. I've heard from very many families who's had to endure that separation, and the heartbreak stories is just breathtaking. And of course, you know, with Atlantic provinces, people are talking about the low birth rate. Maybe if you have your families there, you may actually, get to work in some
that
other
happens.
business
I can attest
as well.
I've seen a lot of that. Once they start.
But I won't. I digress. I want to get back to this other issue though. So the government actually talked quite proudly of this pilot program. Now I have not experienced the pilot program, but you sure as heck have. So I would love to hear from you. And if I don't have within, I don't know how many minutes I've got left, to hear like all the things that they need to fix. And if we can't get that from you today in terms of verbally, if you can send that to us in writing so that we can actually incorporate that, I hope, into this report of things that the government can do. The program, I think, was initiated with the best of intentions, accepting that
it was somebody with great intentions.
It's a disaster from the way it sounds.
Right.
So maybe you can start and tell us to say, these are the things that you got to fix. Otherwise, this program is as good as, well, a pile of garbage, really.
The complexity of the employee having to handle the language skill testing and the skill credentials. The settlement piece that was added and layered on to this new program is very complex for someone to complete and go through the consultation and the areas that wherever they need to do that. And that was never required under the temporary foreign worker program. We would greet someone at their airport on arrival, and they would have entered the country, obtained their work permit, and we'd spend a week getting them settled, finding a spot, helping them get some accommodations and some furniture and whatever the case is. That was never an issue, but it's a very cumbersome piece of this one. And
can I just pause, because I have less than 2 minutes, and
okay.
I kind of want to ask this question.
Okay.
On the language test, because it's come up in other panels before, because the requirement is a level 4, and then when you get to permanent residence, application process is a level 5. For certain work, maybe that is even too high a level. Not to say that a person should not speak English. Of course they should, to a certain degree. But what level do you think should be required? Is it a level 4? Is it a level 5 in both written and verbal?
I have not had any problems with the skill, the level that the people I've recruited. Usually they're related to some of my current employees, and everyone's scheduled, and they've all scored 6 or higher. So I haven't had any experience with that.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, where the challenge on the language testing seems to be is, in their country of origin, they have to get this test. It might not be able to get it for 2 months. So the application stops. Nothing else happens until that happens. And then it stops, and Bill said,
as an employer, I assess that in the interview when I do a Skype interview and talk to the person and do my correspondence online. I like I do with anyone else, I assess their ability to be able to integrate into our environment and their English skills at that time. There's a bureaucratic red tape that's been added to this process that didn't need to be there. It wasn't part of the previous program.
We need to end there. Thank you. Mr. Whalen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for coming. And continue along the same vein, just trying to flesh out how we can make this program work for employers and for potential new Canadians. You talk about the previous program, but of course the temporary foreign worker program that you're using still exists. So if you want,
in a highly skilled category that we have for people with culinary degrees or extensive experience in a culinary environment, in the kitchen area.
what about the PNP program? Does that not also exist for you as an opportunity for workers in your class? Just I'm trying to figure out where the touch points are here.
So typically what would happen under the temporary foreign worker program with the highly skilled LMIA, they would be streamed into the provincial pilot program, the provincial nomination program. And that worked quite well. And during that time, we would be able to assess their as an employer, whether they were fitting in with the environment and the rest of our team, whether they seemed happy, and you have that time to make that assessment. Or is this working for everyone involved? And if so, we would assist them in applying for the provincial nomination certificate. Okay. And facilitate that. When the work permit's only 1 year, it's very difficult to get all of the timelines done. So because I handle it myself, I think it's something we're able to achieve. But in many cases, the province isn't able to get that PMP certificate within the 1-year work permit. So there used to be 2 years, and it gave us that much more time to have someone settle and be integrated. But when it changed it to a year, it became even that much more challenging.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you can do it in 6 months, but New Brunswick it's 1 year.
So by and large, then, if you could have things like the language testing be done online, or have it done here, or maybe stage this process, it might make it easier.
Right.
Talk a little bit about the digital application piece. It seems like all the rest of the applications you're doing are digital.
Well, they were. Until that portal got shut down, and now that went back to paper. It used to be, so that and all of our historical data on CAPS and all the information we had, it was for service, and then it never came back up. So now we had to revert back to paper on the LMIA process. Which is not a big deal. It just took a while. You just assume it was the website was going to go back up. But it was a portal, and you could upload all the information, and it was very efficient, and you could track how it was being processed and the timelines and the whole bit. Versus this piece, there's 3 pieces there's 15 steps to this before you can make the application, and you have to get the nomination from the province to begin with, and then you have to submit all this and get the endorsement from the province, and I've had it in the province for a month, and sometimes still not even approved.
Okay, so in addition to your own designation as an employer, at the end of the day, even under the new pilot program, you still have to go back and get a new designation from the province with respect to the employee? I thought once you were designated as an employer, once the steps are followed, you didn't have to go back to the province and get them to improve the employee.
You have to go back to the province with the employee and all of the backup information, the language, the settlement, and the skills assessment, and all of the proof of advertising. We've done our due diligence to suggest that we don't have the Canadian talent at the same time that's available looking for work. Then they review it all, and at that point they go through a processing before we can even give the foreign worker and the endorsement from the province. So they give us one part of the process, but we have to actually have them named, and then they can go apply for a visa to come to Canada in the embassy or consulate where they reside.
And then you need the federal approval, which can then take months as well. So there's so many different steps.
So do you guys, you say you like the program, so what aspects of it do you like?
Not having an LMIA and having to spend $1,000. We like having the province involved in a lot of ways because you can actually find someone to talk to. Within the bureaucracy, there's a person, you know their name, you have their phone number. That really helps.
Provincial nominations offices have been tremendous.
Yes.
They work well. It's just this Atlantic pilot program was, I think, put together with somebody in public policy with good intent, and they designed something that they made sense, but it doesn't work. And I mean, I don't think it's just a pilot piece. It's becoming extremely cumbersome compared to what was actually already working and successful. The whole wheel got reinvented. Yeah. This is a new way of doing it.
For the employees that you already have here, I guess you must still have some that are here under the temporary foreign worker program finishing off, or are they all through
there would be half a dozen that would be waiting for the provincial nomination certificate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so with them, do you have any experience with moving them forward to permanent residency through the Atlantic Pilot Program? My understanding is you can also do that on this side of the border.
No, I don't. There's no need to use the Atlantic Pilot Program. Once someone's been identified, they're here on a work permit, they get the provincial nomination certificate. I don't need the Atlantic program at that time because that would just add another layer of complexity to the existing process.
Heather, quickly there, I just wanted to touch base. If you could say, 3 things about your community that identify it as the sales point, what people would, the type of people we're looking for to come to rural Canada who are going to enjoy rural Canada and they're going to stay. If you can pick out 3 characteristics, what would they be?
Community, for them, community orientated. That's what's been successful for the people who have come. They've gotten really involved in the community. They're not shy. Family, younger family, and wanting that being love of outdoors. Love of outdoors is huge.
Well, that's if we're trying to target people. Oh, I'm sorry, TJ. Did you want to make a point? Okay. And another small point. I noticed earlier you'd mentioned that on employee-related discounts and taxation being an issue. I just wanted to let you know that that's not something that's happening now. It's not something that's in the cards. I just wanted to thank everyone for bringing their ideas. If you have a final one recommendation to fix the AIP, we'd love to hear it.
Myself?
Yeah.
I haven't had to use it yet, so I don't know yet. Hopefully in the spring I'll be using it. I'm on the list as a designated employer, but I hope to be expanding my business, and because I have this great pool of people now, and the people that are interested in coming here. So I really don't have any right now.
Is enabling people who are here at the end of their work permit now, and there's a number of them in Alberta who have approached me because there's just not the level of work there that there used to be, and the restaurants are struggling because of some other factors that are going on in Alberta, minimum wage. So restaurants are closing. They're here. They cannot get a work permit in Canada. Typically, if it was someone who was on an LMIA, I could send them to a border crossing and they could get a new work permit. That can't happen under the Atlantic Pilot Program. So the people who are already here and started to be partially integrated, who want to come and accelerate the Atlantic Pilot Program, can't do it. They have to go back to their country of origin.
My understanding is that they're supposed to be allowed.
We need them there. Mr. Whalen, just for a couple of minutes. Mr. Whalen, Mr. McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, as well. I just wanted to say that you gave a little bit of an answer to Mr. Whalen's question. My question was going to be, you said earlier you could detail the complexities that you needed to go through in that 55-page document. I think you've done a bit of that. The provincial nominee programs, once you get to that stage, it is, then the next step is permanent residency, and so you've got that employee. I go through it lots in my office as an MLA before I became an MP as well in Manitoba with the Temporary Foreign Workers, and so I know exactly what you've gone through trying to do that. It worked well for some of the people in our area that did it. They also built residences so that they could have a place for some of these people to be housed. Of course, there was rent charged, but it was pretty nominal. One of the benefits that we've had is a former Cape Bretoner, Heather as well. Mark Frisson is from Cape Breton Island, and he's now the president of our Assiniboine Community College in Brandon, and I'd be glad to offer him to you, Mr. Allen and Erkvek, for the culinary arts course that he has in Brandon Assiniboine Community College. He's produced a very good course there in his tenure, and we love him and having him in Brandon, and it's been a big part of the expansion of our community. Is there anything you'd like to say as well in regards to the then any more details on the complexity of the issues that you'd have to go through in those documents?
I think a big step forward would be having a digital process that you could track it along the way and see where the hiccup is, because it's sitting there and you're not quite sure where it is and what's happening. Is there something wrong with it? Do you have to are they waiting for this document or that document? The unknown is very frustrating. So some sort of digital tracking portal is a start, and I think that would be a big start.
Thank you.
We have 1.5 minutes left. If Ms. Zahid has a question.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll be very quick. Thanks for your testimonies today, and my question to you will be about retention. I know that a challenge that the Atlantic provinces faces is when people come for immigration, they come as a door and opening the door to come to Canada. I will be very quick. Are there any suggestions you have for the government or the businesses to retain the people who come there?
Atlantic Canada?
Yes.
Yes. The former program and the process worked well in that it gave them the time to get settled. I know of one Atlantic Pilot Program application that has been processed. They had their permanent residency within 3 weeks of arriving, and they're completely mobile. at that time, and that's a time of transition where it's, you know, if you're in a rural area like Atlantic Canada and you're used to a large city, you're attracted to go back to a large city. So anything that would make the commitment to the work period to be a longer in the region would be beneficial, I think, to assist them in becoming comfortable in the area. And then that's what's happened with all of my people who have come in as temporary foreign workers, become provincial nomination certificates, and have their PR. By the time they have their PR, they have become comfortable in the community and have stayed.
What about students, international students? Are they finding it easier to settle down? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
That was a great addition to allow international students to work. You know, that was a big plus. And, you know, I'm from Halifax, and it's a university town, and you know, it's been a big plus.
Thank you to all our witnesses, and we will be resuming on Thursday morning. Just a reminder to the members that the deadline for witnesses for the Yazidi briefing and study is tomorrow at 5. Okay, meeting's adjourned.